When we ran a multiple regression earlier, we were predicting the level of racial animus, so racial hostility, in every media market, or most of them, 196, I believe, of them, based on these four predictors. So this was our outcome, and these were our four predictors. With multicollinearity, we're taking a look, are any of these predictors or combination of these predictors giving us redundant information in a sense? They're so highly correlated with another predictor that they could cause some issues in the model, especially if we don't interpret it carefully. So we're looking at now getting the variance inflation factor for Bachelor Plus. Essentially what this amounts to is we're going to run a multiple regression with Bachelor Plus as the outcome and the other three predictors as the predictors for this new multiple regression. What I'm going to do here is create a spot for my Bachelor Plus. I'm going to bring it over there and delete this. This just makes it easier to see what we're doing, and it makes the regression easier to run. There are other ways around that. Clicking on my data analysis, and just like before, I'm going to run this regression. Regression. My outcome is my Bachelor Plus now, so animus won't even factor into this. Particular calculation. And I could do the same thing I'm doing right now for the other three predictors as well, where they would become the outcome, and the three predictors, including Bachelor Plus, would be the new predictors. Let's see. I don't think we need to go into all this. We're really just getting a rough sense for how much of a variance inflation factor we have with Bachelor Plus. Okay, and then let me shift over to the formula. The formula, well, I can just tell you, it's 1 over 1 minus r squared, and the r squared will be the r squared from this particular regression. So if I do, let me make that a little bigger here. There we go. We're doing equals 1 divided by 1 minus this r squared right here. That gives us a variance inflation factor of 1.24. Notice that Bachelor Plus is no longer the model because it's the outcome. So the variance inflation factor for Bachelor Plus is 1.24. As a rule of thumb, the book gives, if your VIF is over 5, that's when you want to start paying a little more close attention. It doesn't mean that it can't be a predictor in the model, but it does mean that it's pretty heavily correlated with the other ones. So you just want to be careful. The book does a nice job of telling how to handle that. It really is based on the situation, but you at least want to investigate more carefully when your VIF is higher. Now, it'd be nice if we didn't have to go through that whole process for each individual predictor. So what I've done now is I got JASP, and I'm going to look on my computer. I'm going to browse, and hopefully I'm going to find this data set that I'm looking for. If you haven't gotten into JASP yet, now's a great time to start. Ideally, you want to be using JASP and Excel, a combination of the two. Okay, so I'm going to pop onto Google File Stream. I would fast forward this generally, but I do want you to see the whole process of pulling a file in. Okay, so your file should be saved as a CSV. This is important. Once it's in there, it's hard to modify the original file. So you want to get it set up nicely. You want just one row of column headers. You won't be able to have formulas, calculations, multiple sheets, anything in a CSV file. So I've just got the clean original racial animus data set here. And then now if I run a regression, I'm going to run the original regression. In other words, I'm going to try to predict animus using these 4 predictors, and I am hoping that I have the opportunity to check for multicollinearity here in the options. I'm not seeing it there. Statistics. There we go. Collinearity diagnostics. So we're going to have that as part. And notice that gives us the variance inflation factor for each of our 4 predictors. So just to be clear, here I'm running the original regression, the original multiple regression, where my outcome is racial animus, and these are my 4 predictors. And JASP nicely gives me that variance inflation factor, which, if you remember, and if we're lucky, there we go, it was 1.24 for the Bachelor's Plus. And here, if we look at Bachelor's Plus, we're seeing that same 1.241. Let's see if make that a little bigger there for you. So you see the 1.241 that we got before for Age Plus. Of these 4, it looks like the age 65 plus is the one that's most correlated with the other predictors. But even this is well below that threshold of 5, where we start to get a little more concerned, or we at least want to investigate more if our variance inflation factor pops above 5.